And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at a game called The Magnificent. Expand your camp, gather your resources and trainers, and set up marvelous shows featuring magnificent performers. This is as I was putting this review together, and as I was, getting the game, I had the greatest showman theme songs running through my music. This is the greatest show. I love this theming. I love the idea of a circus, and I like these designers and company at Porta. They've done Santa Maria. This was on my list of games from the Essen Fair. My most anticipated one, which is why it's one of the first reviews that I'm doing, because I was very eager to get this one played. A dice drafting game. I like that concept. Let's jump in. There's a lot going on in this game. I'm not going to explain everything, but hopefully give you a good idea of how the game is going to work. There's 3 rounds in the game, and in each round, players are going to take 4 turns. They're going to be doing this by drafting dice. You're going to roll some dice at the beginning of each round. The dice are of 3 main colors: green, orange, and purple. And then there are the clear dice, which are wild dice of sorts. You're going to, on your turn, take one of these dice, and you're going to get a certain number of power. So the power here would be 5, but if on my second turn I took another purple dice, I would add the power of any die that I had done before. So this is a power of 8. And if I take a wild die, I can add it to any color, so I could say purple again, and now my power would be 11. But then if for my 4th dice I took a green one, this would simply be a power of 4. The wilds no longer count, and green doesn't match the purples that you've done there. There are also gems in this game, and you can discard gems of the color to add 2 to your power. So perhaps if I took the 4 green, I could discard 2 green gems here to get an extra 4 power, so I would have 8 power total. Now, once you've determined your power, you're going to do 2 things. First of all, in front of them, players are going to have 4 cards. These are starting cards. You'll get more as the game goes by. They're over here. And you'll place your die on the card that you're going to take, and you can use each card once per turn, and it's going to give you a bonus at the top. So for example, this one gives me a coin. This says get rid of a gem of any color for 2 coins. This adds 1 to the die that I put there, and this lets me change the die to whatever side I want it to be. So you get a bonus based on the card you put it on, and there's all sorts of bonuses that will come out. For example, this one here just gives you an orange gem. Then you're going to pick one of 3 actions to use. There are 3 different actions in this game. The first one here is to travel. So when you travel, you'll pick the color of the die. So let's say I did that green one and have 8, and you'll move that far clockwise or less. So let's say I decided here I'm going to move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm only going to move 7. Every gem that I pass over is going to give me that gem of that color. So here I would get 2 greens, an orange, and a purple. Tents. These tents are placed here at the beginning of the game. Will come to you, but only if you land on it. And then I'm going to place that tent on my player board. In the future, after tents are gone, these spots here will give you poster cards, which are over here. By the way, this is a player board. This is where you'll keep your gems. If you ever need to get gems and you already are filled up, so let's say, for example, I have 3 orange gems and I get a 4th orange gem, then I get an extra coin instead. But the other action you can take is you can build. You're going to be building up your circus tents here. So you'll determine your power, like I said already. So let's say I did 9 power and I did purple. All right, so I had purple dice, 9 power. This lets me build a large purple tile and a small one. So there are 2 shapes of each of the different colors. So there's a large purple and a small one. The first one I can pretty much place anywhere I want. After that, they need to attach. And anything I cover up here, I'm going to get. So here I would get another assistant of my color. So let's say I'm red, I get another red assistant. If I cover this up, I'm going to get 2 points. Here I get a white crystal. I can get money by covering these up. So one of the reasons you want to build these out there is to cover things up and get points. But the other reason you want to do these is to put on a show. So a show is the 3rd action that you can do on your turn. When you put a show on, you're going to take your top hat here and place it on the power. Now, if someone already is on that power, You can do one that's less if there's an open spot. And each round you can perform 2 shows, so you have another hat to place here. At the end of the day, whoever performs the highest show will go, you'll move these on the round here to determine who goes first next time. When you do a show, it's going to tell you how many posters you'll be able to use. There's a certain number that's listed here. So when you're picking the posters, you'll have these posters. Everyone starts with 1 poster, but to complete a poster, you'll have a certain number you can do based on your power, and then you also need to have the requirements listed on the poster, the buildings, and sometimes they'll even cost you a gem like this one does here. But the poster also must have a tent. There's 1 tent printed on your board. So in this particular case, I can do this poster because I have this piece on the board and there's a tent underneath it. Here I have both pieces, and I mean there's a tent here, but I only have this piece. I don't have the green square. Here it doesn't matter if I have these pieces or not. There's no tent there. Here I have the tent and both of those pieces on the board, so I can perform this one. Each of these is going to give me bonuses on it. So for example, this one gives me 2 coins, this one gives me 3 coins, and this one gives me 6 points. This one here will give me 2 coins and plus 2, so 4 coins and 3 coins and 6 points. You'll then take the posters, you'll discard them, you'll be able to get more posters in these positions, but the tents will stay there and you'll be able to use those multiple times. When you put a tent here, you'll also get a one-time bonus like this one here. Gives me a card and 2 coins, the same thing in all these different spots. Players also have trainers. You start the game with 1 and there's other ways to get more of them I showed you earlier. You can use these on your turn as like bonus actions. Like here I can move my wagon in the opposite direction, or here I can flip a die to the other side and use the other number if I want to. Players will also start with 1 of these, and at the end of every round, players are going to be drafting a new card and a new training tile that they'll be able to use in future rounds. And some training tiles like this one here, for example, says when you move, you spend 2 on this one. And there's a whole pile of different actions that they can do with each of these. That one in particular lets you double the bonus when you put a tent down on the board. Now, after everyone has finished a round and they have taken all the dice, then players are going to do some end of the round things. First, you're going to pay for all the dice you've taken. So let's say, for example, these are the dice that I've taken over the course of the round. You're going to pick your biggest color group. So here I got orange, 2, add any bonus dice, 8, and you need to pay that much money. Here I would need to pay 8 money. For each money you can't pay, you're going to have to give up a point in round 1, 1 point, 2 points per money you can't pay in the second round, and 3 points per money in the third round. So if I have different dice here, this would be pretty expensive. So maybe I wouldn't even want to take a wild. Maybe these are what I have at the end of the game, so here I would only need to pay 5 for my biggest number here. You got to be careful in this regard, because taking a whole bunch of dice of the same color gives you extreme power, but will cost you more money at the end of a round. Then players are going to look at the 4 cards that they have in front of them, and they're going to score one of these cards. Each card is scored differently. Like this gives you 4 points for every one of these type of pieces you have. And the maximum you can get here is 20 points. This one here gives you 7 points if you completed a whole line in the building area. This, you can turn in money for 3 points each, and again, these all have maximums on it. Once you get rid of that card, you'll be taking the new card you drafted. In fact, you can even use the new card you drafted as your scoring card if you want to, and then you have your 4 cards for the next round. At the end of the game, you can score all your cards, but they will get half points for the leftover ones. There's a few other things that go on in the game, but that's basically how it works. Highest score is the winner. I have mixed feelings about the components of this game. The dice are beautiful, wonderful dice. The game comes with this little tray here, which is kind of neat in one sense, because it has a lid you can put on it, but it doesn't snap on it. So honestly, you're going to have to rubber band this in the box anyway. And this is probably too little of a tray. Sticking my hand in here to get out these gems, I don't know, I would have preferred a bigger tray. I think I'm going to actually get rid of this tray. I just don't think it's worth hanging on to. The actual tokens themselves, so if you look closely here, you'll see tents and cool things on these. That looks neat. And if you look at the board and you take a closer look, you can see the different tents and things in the background. But honestly, when I just glance at the board, I don't see any of this. I just see a mishmash of numbers and symbols. There's a little bit more artwork on the front of these. It's kind of cool, although they do a lot of repeating of the same artwork. And it's neat. It almost is a Cirque du Soleil type artwork style on it. The symbology is all clear. The component quality is fine. Although this really does, instead of a top hat, this looks like two wooden pieces that got melted together. I don't know, I just wish, again, it's a cool circus theme. You're just not seeing a whole lot of it here. I enjoy the Magnificent. I want to say this straight up because I don't want this to come off as a negative review. I think the game itself is fine. But I do want to be clear that while this was my most anticipated game going in, coming out I thought, oh, it's a fun game, but I didn't think it was fantastic and fabulous. And because of that, the review could come off sounding a bit negative, and I don't mean it to be that way. But I will list some negative things I have with the game. One, the theme, which I really love the idea of this theme. It's fantastic. There is no theme in this game. Like, zero. You could be doing anything. It doesn't ever feel like you're building a camp, putting a show on. You move a wagon in a circle. It is all mechanical. There is almost negative theme in this game. And while I think that the box cover looks okay, it's a little dark trying to figure out what's going on. There's some pretty cool artwork in here. It feels like even that was lacking. The components, everything, it looks kind of cool, but at the end of the day, that was a huge miss for me. And it keeps it from being an excellent game to some degree because of that. The idea of the game itself works really well. The idea of drafting a game and getting this power that you can then pump up with gems. Again, I don't understand what this has to do with the theme. And then covering up an area on your board. And I didn't mention this in the overview, but you also get bonus points for if you cover up full squares in your board. I like that concept. I like deciding whether to move on the track, giving you a lot of gems that you can use in the future, or covering up stuff on your board, or then putting on the show itself, which is where you get your points from. I like the asymmetricalness. Each player has different starting cards. You can even have different sides of the board if you want to. And you will draft various cards and things over the game. There's a lot going on, and the game ends before you can get it all going. I'm not as big of a fan of the feed your people aspect, which just seems to be in every game these days. And here you pay a coin for each pip of the die you've taken. I will admit it works well. It's a nice balancing feature. It keeps you from just saying, I'm going to take purple and run with purple. Sure, but are you willing to pay for that? And at the end of the game, it can be very difficult because you're paying 3 points for each coin you can't pay. So you're just desperately trying. Because of that, unless you have a lot of money, it feels like the third round isn't as exciting as the first and second round because you have to be really cautious and you can't put on these big fabulous shows. That being said, though, there's a lot of cool aspects to this game. I don't know if it's going to stand out in a year or even now. The idea of putting the dice in the cards and then using that to get power feels different and new. The idea of these 3 different actions, putting the show on, building up the camp, and moving around the track are different actions, and how they work together in synchronization, that feels slightly different. I mean, other games have done various things. The drafting of the dice and the way points are scored and you have money and things, that does feel pretty much the same. And I wonder, because the game ends before you can do everything, which I don't think you should be able to do everything in a game, but and as you put a show on, you're like, hey, I'm putting on a trapeze artist today. Yeah, I got these posters and I don't even care what they say. So I think a lot of people are going to really enjoy this because not everyone's going to go in looking for that same theme that I was looking for. This is from the folks who made Santa Maria. I don't think it's as clean and fast as Santa Maria, but I also think it's probably deeper. And there's a lot of choices. And it's really amazing to me how you can really try different things than other people have. And the scores in the games that I played with, not everyone's score has been close, but a lot of them have been fairly close. It's definitely a game that you're going to get better with as time goes by. So it'll be up to the audience to see, honestly, if this is the kind of game people are looking for. Sometimes I don't mind if there's no theme in a game. Granted, I am smart enough to realize that I went in a little hyped for this because of the theme, so I'm not going to knock the game too much because it doesn't have that theme, because a lot of these games don't. I was disappointed by it, but I do like, again, the aspect of taking the dice and pumping it up with gems and then using that to place it. And I also like the little Tetris-y aspect of the board and putting it on there. And you're always getting stuff in this game. Put tiles down, get stuff. Move around the board, get stuff. Even completing a show, get stuff. You just got to figure out when's the best time to go for money and when's the best time to go for points. So a lot of neat, cool aspects to this. Definitely one I think that will have people divided of sorts. But I think a lot of people are going to enjoy it. The Magnificent. Dice Tower Judgment approved.
Thanks so much for watching another Dice Tower video. If you enjoy our videos, subscribe to the channel for more fun, comprehensive board game coverage. Also, consider joining us at one of our events. Come to Dice Tower Retreat, a small, intimate gathering where gaming is king. Join us for Dice Tower Cruise, the largest board game cruise. Attend Dice Tower West in Las Vegas for gaming fun on the West Coast, or Dice Tower East in Orlando in sunny Florida. Dice Tower Conventions, the friendliest gaming conventions on Earth. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching the Dice Tower.